Welcome to In the News. I'm Ron Jacobson, sitting in for Mark Golub. And today we will be talking about a very unique project happening in the Jewish world this weekend. It's called the Shabbat Project, and it is to establish the Shabbat as a day for building bridges between religious and non-religious communities and help to reach a conscience among different social sectors as a nature of how Shabbat is in the public realm. It will be celebrated in 340 cities in 30 countries around the world. The Shabbat Project was instigated by South Africa's chief rabbi, Rabbi Warren Goldstein, who is joining me right now from Johannesburg. Good night. How are you doing?
Yes, fine. Good to speak to you and to your viewers.
So tell me about, you have a control room there, right, where you're overlooking all of this. Are the people still working, or are they all gone to bed by now?
No, they're still working. There's lots going on. As you mentioned, this project actually started last year in South Africa, and it was a campaign for the whole community to keep one Shabbat together, and to keep it, as best they could in the most authentic way. And the South African Jewish community is 75,000 Jews, and of whom more than 70% participated. So people, didn't drive in cars and didn't use their cell phones and didn't use their television sets, and experienced a true, beautiful Shabbat. And the response was so overwhelming and so powerful that we started to receive emails from all around the world for other communities asking they also would like a Shabbat project. So this year, and as you mentioned, it's coming up right now, this Shabbat is a Shabbat project for the entire Jewish world. And since that,
I got to tell you, I got to tell you, Rabbi, that we would think that a project like that would come out of the U.S. or Israel, where we have big communities. This is coming out of South Africa. Good for you.
Thank you. It's a very special community here in South Africa, and we're it's very blessed as a community to have very high levels of unity and strong levels of Jewish identity. But what's been amazing is that since last year, and this, over the last 7-8 months, since we published the first video explaining what happened in South Africa and inviting people to join as partners, there's been the most overwhelming response from around the world. So that we have more than 1,500 partner groups working, and you'd mentioned the figure of 360 cities, but actually since that press release was put out just a week or two ago, which, you have very recent information, but it's been jumping all the time, and it's now way past 400 cities who are involved, and right across the United States of America, that there are almost 100 cities alone in the United States of America. The places that one would expect, like New York, Los Angeles, Miami, Baltimore, and other places. And then some unusual ones like Mountain Back, Alabama, and Bensalem, Pennsylvania, and Tampa, Arizona, because people are working on this all over, and then it's throughout South America and Europe and Australia, and and in Israel. I was just in Israel for a few days earlier this week to speak about the project and to promote it in Israel, and the response in Israel has been so warm and so wonderful. I think there's a real deep need that people have to, firstly, to connect in unity to Am Yisrael, to the Jewish people, and then also to have a very deep need to connect with one another. Because in the traditional Shabbos, as you know, that people are not driving, and not using cell phones, and not using television. All of the distractions and the pressures of modern life are suspended. Then people have a chance to connect to God, to one another, to family, to community, to their own souls. And there's such a deep need for that in the modern world. And that is why I think that the response has been so visceral and so strong.
I must ask you, because the way that you describe the Shabbat is what we call here in America the more Orthodox way of celebrating Shabbat. But I think that your project is calling out for anyone, right? It doesn't have to be just the people from the Orthodox community.
It's a project which is based on Jewish unity, and so it's very important to note that although what I'm describing is a Shabbat which is, as you mentioned, but we have many partners from the conservative and reform congregations throughout North America. Toronto, there's for example, Rabbi Glover and a number of the conservative synagogues have joined in Miami, right across the United States, in fact.
And which other countries?
Really it's just one Shabbat, and it's an invitation to come and experience a different kind of Shabbos, a Shabbos which is really in its purest form, and one which really offers people something of a unique experience, and one which is so desperately needed in today's modern times.
Tell me about, you talked about some of the cities in the U.S., but about some of the countries which you were really surprised that you got some responses from, that maybe you didn't know that there is some Jewish community or presence at.
Yeah, well, I mean, for example, just the other week I was talking to the rabbi in Abuja, Nigeria, who's joined the project. There's just 100 Jews in Abuja, but and as you know, there's been lots of problems in Nigeria with Boko Haram and other things. And he's working on it with his community. There are communities working and bringing the Shabbat Project in Gibraltar, in Tokyo, in Beijing, Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, right across Asia. And there's some amazing stories starting to come through. For example, what's been very vibrant is the Facebook pages, and people can go have a look at the international Facebook pages and what's going on. There's a very, very big group building, well more than 60,000 likes in a relatively short space of time. And but the story came out of China, because you know that Facebook is banned in China, and so there were a group of little kids that wanted to post photographs of themselves, preparing for Shabbos and getting things ready for the Shabbos Project. So they had to email their photographs and ask our office to put it onto Facebook for them. Mm-hmm. And that's just it's a bit of a taste of what's going on around the world. We just we produced educational material to explain to people how to keep Shabbos if they've never kept it before, or to explain a little bit more about Kiddush and Havdalah and the benching and all of those things. And that's been translated into 8 languages. It appears in, and you can find it on the website, the Shabbat Project or the ShabbatProject.org, and it appears in English and Hebrew and French and Russian and German, Italian, Portuguese, Spanish. Just the other day, literally 2 days ago, our office got a call from a group in the Ukraine who want to publish the book, and they obviously were taking the Russian version of it, and there were some issues, and they needed to change certain things, and we were busy helping them. They were doing a big print run of many thousands of the copy of that booklet. So there, you have in Ukraine, in Paris, it's very strong. I know that the Chief Rabbi of France will be in Strasbourg, in France, for this particular Shabbat. I mean, it's in Vienna and Milan and Rome and Calgary and Toronto and Montreal and wherever you can care to think. Buenos Aires, Sao Paulo, Mexico City, Panama City. There's a beautiful community in Panama City, and literally all of these places are working on the Shabbat Project, and it's been the most amazing journey. And many of the celebrations have already begun, because the Shabbos itself is being introduced with preparation for Shabbat by the making of challah, and that is being done, the chalot, the special loaves for the Shabbat meal, which is being done in large ceremonies with groups of women. There have been thousands of women have already been involved in these in Sydney and Melbourne, because they were, of course, in terms of the time zones, in South Africa, in Cape Town, in Johannesburg. I mean, in Johannesburg tonight, we had a challah making ceremony where there was more than 4,000 women who came, and it was raining because it's the summertime here, and we have summer rain, and it was raining, and the women came in the rain and made challah in the rain. That was the level of commitment and excitement for the project. So there's amazing, heroic stories taking place all across the world. And people can find out more on the website, theshabbatproject.org, which we've now set up to do live streaming, that as things come onto Twitter and to Facebook, it streams onto the website, and it will give people a real feel for what's going on all around the world. It's indeed an historic Shabbat. And really is a piece of history.
Rabbi Goldstein, correct me if I'm wrong, but as far as I know, this is the first time that something like that is happening where, at least spiritually, the whole of the Jewish people around the world are going to be doing, one thing and kind of being together, although they're spread all over the world. How did you come up with the idea for this? Was it an original idea? Because I know that here in America, we also had similar projects like that already in the past.
Yeah, well, I think what makes this different is that it's really calling on people to experience an authentic Shabbat experience, in the most ancient traditional sense of the word, but also the breadth and depth of it. The kind of coalition that has spread across the world. Part of it came from a conversation that I had with Professor Dan Ariely, who, as you may know, is he's a secular Israeli who emigrated to America. He served in Israeli Defense Forces and was injured, and he's one of the top behavioral psychologists in the world, and called a behavioral economist. And he was visiting Johannesburg, and I had a meeting with him at his request, and we were discussing all different kinds of things. And he then asked at one point, what do I consider to be the most important mitzvah? And I said, Shabbat. And then, I then asked him, and how would you inspire people to keep Shabbat? And it didn't come to this idea specifically at the meeting. He was talking about it, if somebody keeps Shabbat for 3 months, then it'll stay as a habit, because the research shows that if you do something for 3 months, it stays as a habit. But then that got me thinking of the concept of a campaign for a limited period of time, and then that led to the idea, okay, let's just try one Shabbat. And actually, that's the Talmud itself makes reference to this concept of the whole Jewish people keeping the Shabbat together.
And at least if I'm looking on social media, you had very good reception all around the world for this. But before I let you go, I want to ask you, because we talked to several leaders, Jewish leaders from around the world, and some of them have experienced a resurgence of anti-Semitism in their country. What's the situation in South Africa?
Look, over the period of the Gaza war, there definitely was an increase. It expressed itself mainly on social media. We didn't have in South Africa any of the violent anti-Semitic demonstrations that other places had, Baruch Hashem. But there was on social media. South Africa traditionally has very low rates of anti-Semitism, and that situation seems to continue. Although there was an increase over this last Gaza war, which is, of course, an area for concern. But overall, I would say it's pretty low. What is an ongoing challenge is the fact that the way that the state of Israel and its actions are perceived by many in South African society is very negative. And this is something that as a Jewish community, and I personally do my best to defend the reputation of the State of Israel, not because I have to, but because I believe in the justice of the cause of the State of Israel, and of course the lie of the accusation that Israel is practicing apartheid, which is both a libelous accusation against the Jewish state and a betrayal of the victims of the real apartheid, and so therefore, as a chief rabbi of South Africa, on both accounts, it's offensive, that lie, both both to the Jewish state and also to the South African people who are the real victims of the real apartheid. So those are some of the issues that we deal with here.
Mm-hmm. Rabbi Warren Goldstein, who is the Chief Rabbi of South Africa, thank you very much. You might have just started now an annual Jewish tradition. Who knows? We'll know only in the future. Good luck tomorrow and over Shabbat, and keep us updated.
We intend that this thing should be annual. We've already set the dates for next year, which will, please God, be Parshat Lech Lecha. Also will be the 23rd and 24th of October. Next year will be Parshat Lech Lecha, please God. But of course, this year's Parshat Noach, which is occurring this Shabbat, and it's yet to come. So let's not get ahead of ourselves either.
Well, so good luck with the Shabbat Project.
Thank you. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Bye.
And before we continue, I have to show you right now this very cool video that the people behind the Shabbat Project have created to promote their initiative. It's already been viewed by hundreds of thousands of people on YouTube, and that's how I, by the way, got to know about this project, which I find is a very cool project. Let's have a look.
We can all keep it together around the world.
Let's keep it together.
Je vous invite tous à participer à ce super Shabbat.
Let's keep Shabbat together worldwide.
Right now we're in the Shabbat Project headquarters in Johannesburg in South Africa, and there's a flood of calls coming in from every part of the globe. What we're seeing here is a tidal wave of people and communities who are making the Shabbat Project happen in their cities. It's just happening everywhere.
C'est un très beau projet, vraiment incroyable.
Venha comigo e vamos fazer isso juntos.
It's magic.
We weigh over 340 cities and 1,200 partners coming in at 15 new partners a day. There's really a sense that people don't want to get left behind. There's a historic opportunity happening here.
I say, wow, it's like this is happening in our times, in today's world.
I would like to participate in Shabbat Project because I would like to get the community all together.
There is a real deep desire and thirst for Jewish unity. We've seen it under difficult circumstances this year. The Shabbat Project is a chance for us to choose unity.
הפרויקט שבת פשוט מראה גיבוש שזה לא מהעולם הזה.
Remember, it's just one Shabbos.
To get together as a family, because that's what we are as Jews.
It will bring us together. We'll be part of one nation.
Join me and let's keep it together.
It's going to be so much easier to keep Shabbos knowing that there are so many people around the world keeping it on the same day. Let's keep it together.
Together we will keep this Shabbos.
From the sun down to stars out.
We will keep it in its entirety.
In all its detail and splendor.
As it has been kept throughout the ages.
Il suo ritmo ci unirà gli uni agli altri.
On this day, we will create a warm and loving space, holding our families together.
Together we embark on this great adventure.
To rediscover our God-given gift of Shabbat.
Y eu me comprometo a guardar o Shabbat.
Estamos muy emocionados al ser parte de este proyecto.
We are so excited.
People are owning it. They are making it happen in their own cities.
There is an opportunity for everybody to be involved and be on board with this great project.
Join us and let's keep it together.
Let's keep it together.
Keeping it together.
לגמרי.
הצטרפו אלינו.
Keeping it together.
You don't want to miss out, so go online and get involved.
Just go onto the website, theshabbatproject.org, get on there and go ahead and sign up and put your name down.
Keeping it together.
Can you imagine the sheer energy and electricity and inspiration that is going to come from that one Shabbat when we're all doing it together and we're keeping it together, and we know that at the very moment that we are keeping it together, there are Jews in hundreds of cities around the world who are keeping it together with us. The sheer inspiration of that and the power of that experience will set the world alight.
The Shabbat Project. And now I'm joined by Rabbi Judah Isaacs, who is the Director of Community Engagement at the Orthodox Union right here in New York City, overseeing the collaborations of the Union with synagogues, communities, and day schools throughout America. Thank you, Rabbi Isaacs, for joining us. Rabbi, are you there?
Yes.
Oh, good.
Yes.
So tell us about your union's involvement in this project.
So very early on, we realized that there are a number of congregations and synagogues across North America that have done a variety of things to enhance the Shabbat experience for Jews, both observant and non-observant. And we put together a whole group of resources from some of the best things that have been done in the past to help enhance those communities that wanted to participate in the Shabbat Project so that they would have tools that could really work here in North America and could be very successful.
Now, I talked to Rabbi Goldberg from South Africa, and he said that, you know, the way that the project is set up is that observing the Shabbat with all the mitzvahs, which is the Orthodox way. We know that here in America, the biggest movement is more the Reform movement. So how are they accepting this project? Are they embracing it as much as you guys do?
I think that, you know, has been one of the issues that's been a little more challenging in North America. I can't speak for their movement as much, but I can tell you that in the Orthodox community, there are many communities throughout North America that have embraced this project. There are other communities that are doing projects at different times, not necessarily this weekend, and they're working in a more kind of unified kind of way. But I will tell you from the Orthodox community, there's been a lot of excitement about this project. And there are, at the current moment, challah bakes going on throughout North America.
So do you have like a control room where you will be helping all the different communities throughout the U.S.?
So we provided the resources, we gave them the materials, we've been working on this for the last 5 months, and now they're really out on their own. So we have a sense of what's going on, and we'll get reports once they're done on what happened and how they did things. But we do know about reservations. We do know, for instance, there are about 1,000 people who are going to be at the Sands Hotel tonight in Long Beach, Long Island, and here in New York, baking challah. We know there'll be people in Paramus, New Jersey. We know there'll be thousands of people in Michigan, in St. Louis, and in Los Angeles. So there are a variety of places that things are already beginning to happen. Tonight, they've already happened in other parts of the world where Thursday night is over already.
So do you feel that the Jewish community is desperately looking for initiatives like that will put them all together?
I think that in light of what happened, what we saw this summer, unfortunately, with the kidnapping of Eyal, Naftali, and what happened with the war in Gaza, and Gilad, I'm sorry, that there really has been an effort among all Jews to really unify in different kind of ways, and I think Shabbat is a very unique way to do that.
And of course, there's this project here in America for for Shabbat, which has been going on for several years now. Do you feel that this international one can be incorporated, or is it going to be a separate one? Is it going to be an annual tradition? What do you feel is going to happen with it?
I think that this will be an annual tradition. I think the turn Friday night into Shabbos that NJOP, the National Jewish Outreach Project, has been doing for many years will continue. It happens in March, and what I'm hoping is that the energy that's now been put into the Shabbos Project will help enhance that project as well. I think the more projects we have, the better we are as a community.
What other projects like that is the union supporting these days to put Jews together?
We continue to work with our congregations. It's really a very local thing. So we help support those congregations that are interested in doing things, and we provide them with best practices from other communities that have done things. There are some very successful efforts that are underway that have been going on for a number of years in Boca Raton, Florida. There have been a number of efforts that have been very successful here in Manhattan at Kilat Jeshurun, and there are communities throughout North America that have specifically synagogues that have hired outreach professionals to work with the broader community.
Do you feel that some of the anti-Semitism that we've seen in isolated locations in the U.S. has brought people back to their faith, to their Judaism?
I think that sometimes that works that way. I don't know that necessarily in America it's really had that kind of effect. But I will say, I think that the war this summer and the vulnerability that Israel felt this summer, even with American Jews feeling more ambivalent about Israel, I think there still was a very strong support for Israel, and I think there was a very strong coming together.
Right, and but do you see this is happening, or is it too early to see the numbers of people coming back?
I think it's very early at this point, and the incidences of anti-Semitism have been very isolated. Mm-hmm. Not that each one of them is not troubling, but it hasn't reverberated across the whole country.
Right. Thank you, Rabbi Judah Isaacs from the Orthodox Union, for joining us here today on JBS. Let's hope this is going to be a very successful Shabbat project, also here in the U.S.
We hope that it will be, and thank you very much.
And that wraps another edition of In the News. Let's thank our great staff here. Our director, Sloan Copeland, our associate director, Dara Golob, our technical director, Serge Goldberg, our editors, Mark Baker and Corey Servikov, our producer, Carol Lilienthal, and the one person that makes it all possible, Mark Golob. I'm Ron Jacobson. Thank you for watching.